Welcome to the Love, Sex, and Leadership podcast, where you can discover simple tantric teachings to embody your true power, awaken your soul's wisdom, and live an inspired life as a natural, intuitive, and heart-centered leader. Today we get to explore more of those edges. And it's at each one of these edges that you get to expand the rubber band of possibility. How much more can you open to the point in which there's not a big kickback, but actually you're just more in your naturalness. But every time you meet an edge of fear, of insecurity, of unknown, you're re-equilibrating your body into the natural alignment that really probably been waiting a lifetime to discover and to remember. And that starts right here with yourself, and recognizing that every single one of you here creates and is creating and has created your own reality based upon your thoughts, perceptions, and beliefs. Your stories of your upbringing, of your childhood, your stories around business, around marriage, around life, around fatherhood, all these different pieces are what makes you your own individual being. Nobody can take that away from you. And what we get to explore into today is getting to know the polarities within you more extensively. So receiving a breath in, sound on the exhale. When you're ready, gently opening the eyes. Shortly we'll go into an opportunity where you can share more deeply what's alive, what's moving for you. I just want to speak into a few of the milestones of where we're going to be moving today. Because each day we're building on a crescendo of experience, of energy, of the frequency that you're able to hold. And what I found in myself in this journey is the more I've met an edge of my, uncomfortability or challenged with the eyes of curiosity, the eyes of, can I meet this situation as if for the first time? There's a man right now I'm working with, both in some marriage counseling as well as a brother-to-brother coaching arrangement. I was just leaving a message with him about curiosity. You know, a very well-established businessman, has many children, very happy life. And he was just recognizing that there's aspects when he's meeting his family and his daughters that he's not actually meeting them through the eyes of curiosity. He's meeting them through all of the different years of their actions and his beliefs and all the different pieces that when he meets and has communication with his daughter, there's a whole backlog of stuff that's there. And it's fair enough that that's there. It's not to push these things aside. And yet, we as men, as beings creating a new reality, when we can appreciate what has arrived to a certain moment in time, but then enable us to have a different lens of seeing reality, maybe through their eyes. How can we expand the empathy of how we're experiencing another? And some of the practices we'll go into this afternoon, you'll have embodied realizations of that empathetic understanding inside this tender feminine that sometimes hasn't had a seat at the table in your consciousness. She hasn't had a chance to say, hey, my opinion matters as well. And so for a lot of male bodies going through life, our feminine at a very young age gets pushed aside. She gets pushed down into a dark corner of our unconscious and says, you're not allowed to come out. And I want you to think for a moment. Think about like the horror movies you've seen in the world. The ones that are really like most scary, it's not always when the little boy goes crazy. It's when the little fucking girl goes crazy. Then you're like, shit is about to get fucking real. Shit's about to get wild right now. Just the little girl is the one that's connected to the mystery. She's connected to the realms beyond the scene. A little boy is like playing with his, trucks and and this is beautiful. There's a beautiful thing about little boys. Not that they can't turn sour, but imagine that young girl that's been inside of you for a lifetime hasn't really been seen by society. She hasn't had permission to express her emotions, to say how she really feels. And generally, in most religions, in most businesses, in most organizations, there isn't even a conversation about that. And if you were to have a conversation about it, it's like, fuck you pussy boy. Like, what's wrong with you? And so imagine that for most of your life, there's an energy inside of you that hasn't been seen, recognized, and heard. And that energy inside of you holds the keys, in my perspective, to the realms of the mystery. I remember years ago, my brother, who I love dearly, he's 8 years older than me. He's an academic professor, has his head in books all the time, teaches all over the U.S. Brilliant man. The first book he wrote, I don't think anyone in my family actually read it. It was like the most academically dense book about presidential history, and I was like, I can't get through this. I think my uncle maybe was the only one who did. Anyways, that's his line of things. I remember years ago, we were celebrating July 4th, like the ultimate American holiday. And I was visiting him, and he has his young daughter, who's now almost 21. She was probably, I think, 7 or 8 at the time. And we were in the backyard, and we're preparing the fire pit to, set up a fire for the 4th of July. And he came through just as a very like Midwestern kind of bloke, was just like spraying mosquito spray all over the air, like just as a very like unconscious, like, I'm gonna kill these mosquitoes. And his daughter came up to him and was like, Daddy, you're killing all the fairies. And he looked at her, she looked at him, and he was like, okay. Like, you can tell he had no conscious understanding of what realm is this woman even seeing reality, but there was something about the way in which she spoke, it met him. It met him in a way that was like, I maybe there's fairies, I don't think I've ever seen them or have any idea what you're talking about, but I feel your heart in this moment, and I realize I need to put the mosquito spray down. And I just watched this interaction, and to me, this moment was recognizing that there's a mystery and there's a connection to deeper realms of awareness that a young child knows in little boys and little girls. But the little girl is quite connected to this. And then at a certain age, 11, 12, 13, 14, I remember my niece suddenly became self-aware. And it was like her entire personality changed. And those fathers in the room, I'm sure, can relate. And it's like, no longer was there a young girl connected to the unseen realms. There was a young girl connected to, oh my God, how do I look in the mirror? What are people thinking about me? And this was just the developmental stages of a child. We go through 7-year cycles. So often when we hit 14, there's a shift in that cycle, usually around that time. I share this because the lens of our awareness has the capacity to change when we can meet eyes through the curiosity of this young child inside. And that young child, as you discovered yesterday, when we can let go of that story, has availability to dance and to play and to meet life through new lenses. And in my perspective, when we can meet life each and every day from a new lens of perspective, not all of our judgment and ridicule and shame and blame, but actually life. What are you presenting to me today? How can I show up today with joy in my heart, with service of my soul, and also do the things that I love to do? We're going to speak more into this, especially tomorrow, as we dive deeper into purpose. But I share all of this because this, to me, is the dimensions of polarity that we're going to dive into deeper today. that in this feminine aspect of ourselves, we have light and dark. In this masculine aspect of ourselves, we have light and dark. And looking at the masculine side, the light masculine is that part that can witness without judgment, can simply be there as the conscious observer of life, meeting it fully, but also, not getting lost in the ascended journey connected to, God. Like has a connection to God, but in a healthy form embodies that. And if you spend enough time in Ubud or in spiritual communities, you'll see a lot of unembodied, unhealthy, light masculine energy. Anyone ever seen any of this? Guys, and maybe you know it in yourself. I definitely knew that energy at a time in my life when it was like, only thing that mattered was meditation and connection to source and connection to spirit, and everything else kind of fell away. But there was a lot of unhealthy characteristics of it because I wasn't really living and breathing as an embodied man in that sense. And then looking at kind of the dark masculine, which is that energy in the world that's very misunderstood, very misguided, and in general it's only being represented as the destruction and the raping and the destroying of humanity. It's like a masculine energy in power, often consumes power, has power over others, and only does things to validate his ego inside of just trying to see, please love me and appreciate me, I'm going to have control over you. And the dark masculine in a healthy way is this energy that's connected to your penetrative power, but is saying to yourself and the people around you, I'm penetrating anything that's not love. And that's a force. Because the dark masculine in a healthy form isn't afraid of conflict, isn't afraid of standing his foot in the ground and saying, hey, that's not welcome here. I'm here to support my family, my friends, my brothers. And I'm not just going to lean back and just try to meditate my problems away. I'm actually going to embody the penetrative capacity inside of me and destroy anything in front that's not love or above. Now that energy isn't something that we have a lot of healthy role models of. Anyone have a really healthy example of dark masculine energy growing up? Maybe, sometimes it's there. Yeah, but we probably have seen more of the unhealthy of men with power having power over others. And so that we're going to explore more of that light and dark energy of the masculine. We'll be doing that this morning. And secondly, this energy of the feminine, which, I won't go into too much of the light and the dark, but it's similar. There's a light feminine that basically, is like the Mother Teresa or Amma, the hugging saint, the ones that are just, give me all your problems. I'm just going to love you and care for you. But the downside of that is she becomes a martyr and is just putting everyone else before her. And then the dark feminine, she's, the crazy Kali archetype, with the bloody heads on her hands that's just saying, I'm going to fucking destroy and wreck all of you motherfuckers, because none of you are feeling the potency and the power of the earth that's moving through you. And this is more that dark feminine, chaotic, which on an unhealthy dark feminine is just pure destruction with all of the unhealthy emotions pouring through her. So for you in a male body, when you start to know your own emotional body more, then you can start to cultivate more awareness and energy of this feminine inside of you. And we will explore more of that this afternoon, of seeing how she feels, what's the flavor of her, with the intention of walking away and being in life in a deeper state of inner union. That means that you're masculine and feminine dancing and communicating and loving one another. And when that inner union is most present, then you can go into the outer union with your beloved, not as a needy little bitch, not as a avoidant, boy that's just afraid of intimacy and connection, but actually knowing the depth of connection and love and intimacy that's birthing through your heart and soul each and every day. And when you do that, and you meet the world from that place, and you meet the world from your own inner integrity, then there's not a cup that's looking to be filled by somebody else. Your cup is already overflowing. Your cup is already flowing forward with the love and the service and the connection that's wanting to birth through you. And you're not looking for the outside of saying, please complete me. I'm not whole without you. I need you to feel good, which is a lot of the archetypes that kind of are quite prominent in our society. So a man that's connected to his light and dark power and has an awareness of the receptivity and emotional integrity of his feminine, he then steps into the world as a truly embodied man that can make a difference in this lifetime. Deep breath in, sound on the exhale. Just resonating, putting some pieces together. And this is why the stance of polarity is so important. So we're expanding both on a cognitive level of our awareness and on an embodied level of our comfortability, these polarities, so that they get to know each other more deeply, and we're not afraid of deep sexual intimacy. We're not afraid of deep embodied power. We're able to stand strong and centered, experiencing and navigating both as a gateway of our soul's journey in this life. So that when you are on your deathbed, you can actually say, fuck, I gave it my all and I utilized these gifts and I wasn't afraid of one aspect of me. I didn't deny my feminine my whole life, or I didn't deny my masculine. I let them be in more congruency together as according to your own soul's wisdom. And this is part of the why, for me, of why we're doing all of this, so that each of you recognize and remember inside of you what you've really come to this earth to do, what you've really come here to be, to embody, and to represent, not as an egoic attachment to purpose, but as a soul recognition of knowing nothing else that needs to move through you other than living and breathing from that space. And when that's alive and true, you're a fucking force to reckon with. And you truly become the change, and you be the change you wish to see, as so many mentors and gurus and sages have said before. But that requires getting out of the mind into the body and assimilating all of these centers together. Just take a moment to bring the back straight and just let these pieces land. Let this land wherever it lands. Whatever thing I just said, whatever words were just communicated, whatever came through that landed inside of you, let that just land as an exploration to get to know yourself more deeply.